Welcome back to part 2 of the Voices of Healthcare Equity in our conversation with Dr. Todd Otten. In part 1, we spoke about how burnout led Todd to many new advocacy initiatives, including writing Ripple of Change with his patient of 10 years, Joshua Judy, including co-founding our Quadruple Aim. And in part 2, we'll talk about some of the other amazing leadership and advocacy initiatives Dr. Otten's taking part of, including Medicine Forward and A10 Investments. Make sure you don't miss part 1, where we really delve into some of the humanistic interactions in medicine and how failures in those interactions have led both Dr. Otten and, of course, myself and many other physicians into advocacy and changing the way healthcare is carried out, both for physicians and other healthcare professionals and for patients. So welcome back to part 2, Dr. Otten. I'm excited to learn more about Medicine Forward.
Yeah, Medicine Forward is an amazing organization that I kind of came across by happenstance when I was trying to figure out how to spread the word about the book Ripple of Change. And I met Gabe Charbonneau, who was one of the co-founders, and he was gracious enough to offer to interview me. And we sort of went down this amazing journey of becoming really good friends at this point. And I'm on the verge of taking over the leadership role for the organization. And I think my title is going to land on Relentless Catalyst is what I'm going to go with. But don't hold me to that if it changes a little bit. But a little bit of backstory with Medicine Forward, if I may. They were founded in 2019 with just a host of amazing individuals, including Eric Topol, Emily. I'm drawing a blank on her last name. She has a podcast called Nocturnist. Doesn't matter. Gabe Charbonneau, Esther Chu, just a handful of others. And really, they were looking to create an organization for how physicians can organize differently. Interestingly, though, over the years, the group has evolved and morphed, and our leadership group now is about half physicians and half non-physicians, and really kind of we're hoping to fill a unique space in the advocacy world with our current mission statement, which is catalyzing positive change so patient-physician relationships can flourish. And so it's, just accelerating these ideas and amplifying the work that's already out there so that we can see even in greater change, if you will. So that's where we're at now. And there's about 400 individuals in the organization, just a bunch of amazing positive change agents. And it's only $5 to join. So yeah, come join us. And we've got cool t-shirts and so on and so forth. I'm digressing. I'll stop.
Well, we're talking about Medicine Forward, and you're plugging with the t-shirt. So talk to me and talk to our audience. How would you tell the folks considering the $5 membership fee, what will they do or get or be a part of in Medicine Forward?
Oh, yeah, I love it. Great question. So we're at a really cool time where we're looking to not completely decentralize the organization, but more like a hybrid probably, and to evolve what's called a team of teams approach. And what we're trying to accomplish with that is to remove or reduce some of the bureaucratic barriers to doing things, to creating action. So you have these ideally smaller groups of maybe 2 to 5 individuals who say they want to do a coaching program attached to Medicine Forward. Great, go for it. Let's see what you got. But at the same time, staying tethered to our leadership group, but really experimenting, trying things, taking calculated risks to, in the vein of the mission statement, to catalyze positive change. And it's exciting to think about that. Like, instead of, barriers or no's, it's often yes and. Well, how can we do this and try and go forward? So, to give you an example, we recently did an event at the Burnout Symposium in New York City uh, in conjunction with the Kern National Network, who's all about flourishing in medicine, and the Healthcare Reinvention Collaborative, who's looking to create an impact network. And we had this amazing gathering of I think there's about 30, 35 people there in an open forum discussion setting of what can we do and what should we do to create positive change. And as a result of that, there was a follow-up meeting of the same. Unfortunately, I couldn't attend, but I heard it was also an amazing opportunity to talk about action items going forward. So that's one uh, facet of the organization. We also have a monthly newsletter where we will highlight other organizations, other ways that people can contribute, etc. And one of the things that I'll say is, time, talent, and treasure. We might not all have the time to contribute. Maybe you don't feel like you have the talent, or whatever. Not everybody's going to write a book with one of their patients, I suppose, but maybe you want to skip a cup of coffee and donate to your organization, Kim, or Medicine Forward, or the Lorna Breen Foundation, or the Kern National Network. And so I know this is a bit of a longer answer, but I think there's multiple levels to participation and things and opportunities within Medicine Forward as we continue to mature. Bottom line, though, I think if you're looking for a community of like-minded individuals who are moving towards action because they're frustrated with the existing landscape in the healthcare in the United States, rather, Medicine Forward is definitely a great landing spot amongst many other organizations that are out there.
Okay, so how do people connect with Medicine Forward?
Sure. Website is medicineforward.org. Easy enough. Or you could reach out to one of me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty responsive there, and I can help you out.
There you go. All right. How about our quadruple aim? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So the triple aim came out from IHI, Institute for Healthcare Improvement, in 2007, and it was around population health with lower cost per capita, patient experience, and quality care. And in and of itself, I think it's brilliant, right? But there was a piece that was missing, if you will, and that was really the clinician wellness piece. In 2014, Dr. Sinsky and Dr. Bodenheimer wrote an article suggesting the quadruple aim. So patient experience, quality care, lower costs, and provider wellness. And I was like an instantaneous fan of that idea, because when you take that framework for decision making in healthcare and you really consider all four of those quadrants, the majority of stakeholders tend to win. When you're only focused on the myopic view around profits, it often has negative effects to the other three buckets, if you will. So I was an immediate adopter in my leadership positions, and I wouldn't shut up about the quadruple aim, no matter where we were, if you will. As Joshua and I were writing the book, we felt like maybe something was missing with the quadruple aim, and it took a little while to kind of figure out what that was, but that's where the word "our" came about. It's not my quadruple aim. It's not Joshua's quadruple aim. It's not yours, Kim. It's all of ours. And if we all feel empowered to take that framework for decision making, it's magical. I've seen it work at the clinic level. I've seen it work at the hospital level. I've seen it work at system levels. It works, but there has to be buy-in, right? And if you think about it, our quadruple aim is essentially akin to the quintuple aim. I know this is a bit of an alphabet soup, but think patient experience, quality care, lower costs, provider wellness, and that health equity piece. The reality is that's 12 words, right? Or excuse me, 10 words rather, that provides a simple framework for delivering amazing care. So hopefully that explains it maybe a little bit better and how we landed with our quadruple aim.
We are in an interesting and disruptive time in many things, but definitely for healthcare. Disruption can have a negative vibe because it's when you see sort of the parts of the machine that are broken.
Mm-hmm.
But disruption, I know you're a healthcare leader, is also an opportunity, right, for change and growth and innovation. If you could kind of wave a magic wand, I won't say be the king of the world because maybe you don't want that.
No,
But if
no,
you
no, not at all.
could, correct, if you could ask for anything you want to bring about the change you want to bring about, what is one or two things that would be at the top of your list?
Oh, wow. The thing that comes to mind, immediately, Kim, is the notion of people over profits. That humanism or humanistic component to things, if you will. We've gotten away from that in many instances, and it has created this whole litany of problems associated with that. And the reality is, when we really focus on the person in front of us, it is magical the care that can be delivered, right? And the corollary to that, I guess, is when that happens, people pick up on that, right? They're aware of that. They're aware that you're listening, that you care, that you're trying your best. And when that happens, word of mouth is just unreal. And you're never at a want for more volume or more patience. And interestingly enough, the dollars follow along with that. And so then the margin is never a problem. Um, but it's a mindset shift, and there has to be buy-in. Like, we're doing this and that for the right reasons, not because it's going to create this amount of ROI. And don't get me wrong, I understand ROI is important. I get that. But that shouldn't be what's driving the ship. And unfortunately, all too often, that's what is driving the ship.
I'm going to be the radical voice here. The people are the thing; they're the most important thing. Yes, profits should come naturally from doing the right thing. I understand that we live in a capitalist society, but profits will come from doing the right thing. But it strikes me that people over profits is so easy for a trained healthcare professional because we start our mission, our profession, right? So we do a lot of training and years of anticipating what this wonderful life of service to individuals and to our community is going to be like. And we take a very old oath based on do no harm. And what that ingrains in us is this, what we call fiduciary stance towards our work, where it can sometimes bring us to where we are, which is burnout, where the needs of the patient in front of us are our primary goal and not our needs, not our hospital's needs, and actually can end up putting us in a place where there's a conflict because lots of things can be a priority, but always one of the great things in ethics is you'll always get to a place where two wonderful things will come into conflict, and you have to have a priority list so that one takes preference over the others. And I think for us, for me in medicine, do no harm consistently rises to the top. What if we just made that the standard for the whole of healthcare? Management, business, legislation, all of it.
I think it's brilliant, Kim, and we could go down so many rabbit holes with this, I think. Um, but I think it is, equates to our quadruple aim in some respects, if you think about it, right? It talks about balance, and if we try and balance where we're spending our time and our energy and how we're treating people, um, I think it relates, and I think it makes a lot of sense. And in short, I totally agree with you.
Yeah. And I think for our patients, like for me, these conversations that you and I have, like first of all, yes, we high five. We know the burnout route. We've been the healthcare leaders trying to make change from inside and getting betrayed and trying now to make change from outside and inside, etc. But I think getting our patients to understand what is at the root of what's happening and why these conversations matter. And I think the root of that is that you cannot get the best care. You can't even get good care unless the people caring for you also are well and also are cared for, period. End the conversation. So if they're taking care of you and their focus is their fiduciary responsibility to you, somebody has to be taking care of them and having a fiduciary responsibility to them.
I completely agree. I think self-care is critically important. And, when I went through training, we were taught to stuff things in a box. Traumatic events, bad outcomes, people die, etc. And honestly, I was never even taught what to do with all the stuff in the box, how to process that. And that's just one thing that is, microcosm of some of the issues that have been perpetuated in medical training. And I can speak from personal experience. When you open that box, if it's ever opened, it can be a mess to try and process all that stuff. And so I guess the point I'm trying to make is self-care is absolutely critical. If you're not well and you're trying to care for others, there's a problem there. And all the studies show that when you've got burned out clinicians, costs go up, outcomes are worse, and the list goes on and on. So we have got to put, as you said, people first. We have to. We're on this slippery slope of putting money first, and it's created just a mountain of problems that we're trying to overcome. But again, I don't want to necessarily dwell on the negativity, but I think the conversations and getting this out there and and activating, what is probably 300 plus million people who are frustrated with the current system to be a part of change is really how we can move the needle. And so these conversations, agreed, are just absolutely needed, 100%.
Yeah. And I want to say to our community, our burnt out clinical community, self-care is essential. It's a resuscitation attempt. It is not the cure. But we have to start there. So right now they are in a sandwich, right? They are advocating for patients and also having to advocate for themselves. And they're in a no-win situation. So I'm going to speak to the healthcare leaders out there. If you're a healthcare leader, your focus needs to be the care of the people you are leading. If you take care of those people, they will do amazing work. And that work is what will drive the growth of your hospital, your industry, etc. Period. They need to be your focus. If you're making a decision, make it from the point of view of, am I helping the people that are caring for my patients? Period.
That is so well said, Kim, that I'm afraid to say anything because I don't want to screw it up. So I'm going to say ditto.
Yeah, period. Trust them. They are so well trained. They know the patients better than anything. They know the social circumstances better than anything. They actually have the answers. All you have to do is take care of them, advocate for them, and listen to them, and you could be the most successful healthcare leader out there. Period. So that's what I'm going to throw out in the world. All right, you did give us one. If you could have anything, do you have any one more? If you could have anything, you don't have to. I love going to the magic place where we can fix the world. What else would you want to do to fix the world of healthcare?
Oh, wow. I would love to see us continue to migrate. I guess in terms of like on the global scale, I'd love to see, love and peace be ubiquitous for sure. But going back to the conversation with healthcare, I would love to see us continue to migrate away from the fee for service model that we currently exist in. I think that's created just a tremendous amount of problems. I would love if we could solve value-based reimbursement. Um, I'm not sure we're there yet. I think there's some amazing things that have occurred. Um, but yeah, if I had another wish, I wish we could really get away from fee for service.
Yeah. And I'm saying this again to you, Todd, because you were a healthcare leader. I heard the CMO word in there. Um, I think part of why we are stuck is because you can't come up with the solutions from your own box. You have to go outside of your box. You have to see the world and what's available and what people are trying and doing in terms of healthcare around the world. And I don't mean just kind of hear about it. I mean really learn about it and experience it to really spark those creative ideas that bring us to the next step. And I truly hope that's what we're going to start doing with the Healthcare Alliance because perspective and shared knowledge, I think, is the path forward in solving what should never be a local problem. Healthcare is a human right. I don't care. I think it's a human right. And in order to make it that way, we have to unite behind it as a global humanity.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think, the traditional ways of thinking and doing things in the US are flawed in many regards, if you will. We've proven successfully that we can spend a lot of money and not have the greatest of outcomes. We have to go elsewhere, around the world, different industries. How do the arts play a role? And consider all these things as we're trying to create a new model. I don't know that we have the answer yet. I'm not sure anybody does, but we've got to continue to try. We have to continue to quote unquote build the airplane as we're flying it, to try and land in a better place. And so I agree. I think we need to be creative. We need to be imaginative. We need to be okay to have some failures and to try some things. Not obviously to intentionally harm anyone, but we have to be okay with taking a different path. I think back to our last conversation where I talked about the patient with the pancreatic cancer. We chose a different path. And was that the norm or the standard? No. But it was the right one and led to some magic in the end? Yes, absolutely. Um, so yeah, I agree with you. We got to think differently. We got to color outside of the lines, think outside of the box, blow up silos. These are all kinds of things I say on a routine basis.
Yeah. And I think what you're doing with Medicine Forward is important because people are going to have to do that in small groups, taking all the risk by themselves because no big institution or big government is going to want to walk the risk with you. They're going to wait. They're going to watch you and watch you make the mistakes. And only after you've proven your success will anybody want to join you in that walk. So it's important to create these communities so that people have some place that they can have support to take those risks and make those innovations, which will come with mistakes that will be solved and then iterated upon.
Totally. And I think that's why it's been a lot of fun to be a part of the organization and especially with where we're headed into, 2025, if you will, with this team of teams approach and trying things and being okay if they don't quite work out. Right. And because if we don't try something different, the status quo is just going to get perpetuated. And so I'm excited for where we're going to be. And so, yeah, come join us. We'd love to have you for sure.
Awesome. Todd, how can our audience connect with you?
So I'm very active on LinkedIn. I say very active. I'm of social media. That's the most I'm active on. So if you connect with me on LinkedIn, I'll definitely respond to you. The website, if you want a signed copy of Ripple of Change, is rippleofchange.us. And then again, I do a lot of work with Medicine Forward, and that website's medicineforward.org. And Kim, this was so much fun. I can't thank you enough for giving me the opportunity.
Wow, this is great. I love having this conversation with you and connecting with you, and the great work you're doing. We really need more of this. And thank you so much for writing the book. Thank you for sharing your vulnerabilities and your insights. It really is going to help us make healthcare more equitable and more sustainable for the people who carry out the care. So I appreciate you so much, Dr. Otten.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'll do the little heart symbol. Hopefully, I'm centering this somewhat okay.
In our podcast, we highlight the voices of innovators, leaders, and authors who are championing change and equity in healthcare. If you're advocating for healthcare equity, we'd like to hear your story and share your voice on our show. Please contact us at Dr. T, T, at haew.org to secure your spot on the podcast. Listeners, please, we need your support. Share today's episode with a friend. Please leave us a review and share your thoughts. And if you're interested in being a guest, email us. Visit https://haew.org to learn more, join us, partner, or contribute. Thank you, everyone.